Good morning, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the session so far. We have an interesting panel at our hand, and I'm so very thankful to all the panelists, Kalyan, Adishri, Saugata, and Harish with us. They are heading marketing at their respective organizations. And the topic at hand, we could discuss whole day and might not meet a common consensus. But the discussion is very interesting, from transactions to relationships, the changing role of CMOs in B2B marketing. Right. So without further ado, I think I would love to get into the discussion, if that's okay with you all. Right. So today's discussion we have kind of put into three different sections. First section will, of course, dwell first into the changing role, the board's expectations and what kind of challenges we are facing and how we are kind of doing different kind of tasks, what has evolved, what's not. And in the second section, we'll probably get into building the future-ready marketing, operational model, and then operationalizing and transforming B2B marketing. So those would be the key sections. And just to begin the discussion, I think way back when I started working in 2003, and ever since looking at CMOs, there have been many changes, many things that have evolved. It's not merely just demand generation. There is much more. It's not just funnel, but it's also how CMOs are contributing to the overall revenue generation in the organization. So my first question is that in that context, how has the role of CMO in B2B marketing evolved over past few years as per your experience? I would like to come to you, Adishri, if that's okay.
Thank you so much for that question, Mukesh. Of course, I think as marketers here in the room, I think we can all strongly agree that the role of marketing leaders has surely and strongly evolved over the last few years. So, at one point of time, we were only in the position of, driving lead generation campaigns or doing execution work to just support the business. But now we have evolved to being a strategic driver of growth for the organization. And there are, many things along the way that have brought in that change. Right from from events, we've moved to a lot of digital marketing, and more recently, and that has changed the conversation. So we're not only just building brand, positioning brand, shaping the conversations around the brand, but making a direct impact on the business in terms of the revenues that we're driving, in terms of the overall business that we're creating and creating the value for the business. And if I just some of the shifts that have happened in the recent past is things like the advent of AI. Now, what we're doing is moving from just looking at dashboards in terms of a backward-looking, value of how business has contributed. We're able to really provide the headlights to the business to help them look ahead right from predictive modeling, predictive scoring, personalized personalized content creation, customer journeys. To more recently, I think one of the shifts that we do a lot internally is the use of intent data. Now that really has been a true game changer to really understand what are customers engaging with, what are they researching about, what are the topics that are most relevant to them. And even before they go out and fill that form. So then we're able to really have very tailored and specific precision-based targeting, which has a direct impact on the revenue. And I think I can speak for a lot of the players here on the table. We're marketing today is able to contribute 30 to 40% of the overall pipeline, which is huge. So that's the kind of impact, and that's the strategic nature of marketing today. So we're not only storytellers, which is one of the primary roles that we play, we're business strategists and we're technologists, all rolled into one, which makes it a very, very powerful position for marketing and great time to be in marketing.
Yeah, appreciate that. And, many hats that marketeers have to wear today. Would you like to add to that, Harish?
Hello. Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone. So when I was thinking about, this topic on changing roles, one thing that never changes is, the temperature of the AC in a ballroom like this. I was in another hotel in a workshop for the last 2 days. Somehow it's always below my tolerance level. That's why you see me wear a tweed jacket in the middle of monsoons. Coming now to the topic on hand, I represent Pluxee India, which was previously Sodexo, an employee benefits company. Somehow I've been working for 15 years now, 8 years in this company. For me, the role has not transformed that much. It's been a rich role. I manage both. I'm both chief product and marketing officer in India. Um, but I'll talk a little bit on the richness aspect of the role. So my job starts at the strategic planning part of it. So annually, the strategic planning exercise is held by someone who's in my role, which is me currently. So starting from market sizing to competition mapping to opportunity mapping, if the work really starts there. Then, of course, it's your part of the strategy, but also bringing all the other functions together. So for me, I think it's been a ride which always been there. Yeah, as Adishri, you rightly pointed out, there are new tools that's coming in, which gives us more capacity to do things, measure better. I was reading somewhere, I think 70% of B2B sales is now digital. So that helps because the attribution can be sharper vis-a-vis, as you rightly pointed out, on an event, the attribution is much more complex. We have more new tools at our disposal, which are helping us, probably design the journey in a more smarter way. But to an aspect, I see, yeah, I think, so I think in a sense, I've been lucky. Now it's been split. My role globally in other countries, they're splitting it into product and marketing. But where I sit today, the way I'm lucky to have, be able to manage things. I think it's a rich role. It sits in the center of the table, as you said rightly. But yeah, it's pretty much been the same way for me. So probably a little bit of a different experience.
Okay, I understand. And probably it was always right from the beginning, little more strategic, due to the nature of the industry or the product you deal with. But you've been wearing many hats already. So a couple of years ago, there was this study done, and that showed that as marketeers are, contributing more and doing more strategic roles, often, when they want to take on more, there are organizational barriers that they face as marketeers while executing that change in the organizations. So in that context, I wanted to ask this esteemed panel of mine, what are those some key challenges that we as marketeers face in the organization when it comes to taking bigger decisions or contributing more, and how can we as CMOs form better relationships with the board or the CEOs and drive organization-wide transformation. So two parts to it. One is what are the challenges, and second is what can be done to overcome those challenges. And I would love to come to you, Saugata, with that.
So, Mukesh, and to the audience, I don't think there's one answer that can, be given for this question. It's very circumstantial and on a case-to-case basis because every organization has its own set of unique working styles, processes, and challenges, right? But I think if I were to look at it from a slightly higher order perspective, right, the first and biggest challenge across the board is that of perception, right? Marketeers historically, and more so in B2B, have always been about either brand or demand. And I use the term either very consciously here, right? It's either brand or demand. The day a marketeer has or gets the confidence, and I'm not talking about CMOs alone, right? This kind of goes down the food chain to the junior most employee or colleague on the team. The day a marketeer builds up the courage to actually say that I impact business in various forms and functions, I think that's a good starting point to have, right? The second thing to battle perception is to actually make shifts which are visible and tangible, right? A case in point would be these days a lot of organizations are actually struggling to define product market fit. Products are getting launched and they're just not taking off. And I mean, some of us may have seen the MIT study that's come out a few days back, which basically is saying, and since we touched upon AI, it's basically saying that in enterprises today, 95% of all the AI projects are failing. they're not getting out of the proof of concept stage into an MVP stage. And the 5% which are actually getting through are ones which are managing back-end processes, right? I think this is a great time for a marketer to actually step up, leverage the tools at their disposal, and basically say that, okay, let's do a project market fit, definition project. I'm going to lead that project. Or if it is a new product launch, an NPI story, marketing historically has been at the fag end of the process, right? Because everything is done and then given to marketing saying, okay, now define a value proposition and take it to market. Marketeers can actually take a much, much stronger front foot role in that process. I mean, these are just two examples. Like I said, there are various use cases depending on the organization. But the fact is, it is the perception that needs to get changed. Right? That's the first point I would say. Second is to your question about how to build a strategic relationship with the board and with the leadership teams within the organization. I would say read the room, right? There's no point in one going in and presenting a set of charts, which for all you know, the board may not be even interested in because that's not the elephant in the room, right? Read the room. You have enough data. You have enough ways of presenting the data, which will show tangible value addition to the problem that everybody is struggling with or trying to solve for, right? So the more contextual, the more relevant you make yourself, and it starts again with all in our minds. If I believe my job is only to create demand or my job is only to build the brand, then I'm not doing my job properly.
Okay. So let's get an outsider's perspective here. Kalyan, though you are not a CMO, but you have been serving CMOs over the years.
So
according to you, what are the biggest challenges a CMO faces being recognized as a strategic leader?
So I've worked with their equivalents as my clients, but because we work across the business value chain and because we are not execution partner, sometimes we get whispered to. So without names, I'll say three things which are tough for the CMOs in B2B and three things which are opportunities as well. The first thing, I agree with Saugata. CMOs are seen as, in spite of more share of the funnel they're occupying now after AI, CMOs are seen as lead generators or brand builders. I love that. But they're not seen as deal velocity drivers. A CEO is going to be looking at your CMO as a partner and a revenue operating system partner. Right? If you are chasing deal velocity and closing with them, with AI, with targeting pre, during, post sales, it's possible, right? But they're not seen so right now, right? They always come secondary to the sales and the product, right? Unless in your case where you also have product. Not all B2B CMOs have product under them. Second thing that's happening is post AI and the collapse of the funnel is dead, long live the funnel. What's happening is that the CSO and the head of marketing are competing. I've had heads of marketing talk to me in a private conversation and head of sales saying, yeah, AI, if it's there and consideration is equal to conversion is equal to consideration, I have to talk brand and sales and features and deal and after service in the same message in an attention deprived economy. Then why am I not doing the marketing head's job? Anyways, I'm very powerful in a B2B organization. On the other side, the marketing head is asking the same thing in an FMCG organization where he's a little more powerful. So we're seeing that as the other threat, that wins of opportunity for CMOs. I think B2B CMOs have a fantastic opportunity. In number one, attention is temporary, trust is permanent, right? And the game is shifting from B2B to H2H, human to human marketing, where trust is there because noise, AI is going to increase noise. Everybody is going to generate 100x more content. So noise is going to increase and further damage the attention. So trust builders are what CMOs are, not head of sales. So getting the human understanding, there is a three circular approach to understanding your buyers, B2B buyers, beyond the professional, as a human and as a person behind the professional. I want to go home on time. What are you selling to me? Is it a dashboard? Is it a dashboard? Are you going to send me to my wife home? B2B is also human. So that's something that CMOs can champion. And the collapsed funnel is also something that the CMOs can really leverage. Second is trust is going to be built by CX. And internal communications is again a CMO's power hold. So because a product experience or a service experience for the client is going to be driven across departments. And B2B have a lot of silos and a lot of egos. Marketer, because they're storytellers, internal storytelling, convincing CEO, we have to give a good CX. CX is another weapon, internal driving CX. So I limit here because I don't want to talk, but very interesting times for somebody as an outsider. Lots of theater in the B2B marketing sales space.
Thank you for that input. So, if I had to sum up all of these answers during our first section, I think the role or the expectation or the demand from the role is to drive a transformational growth in the organization. B2B CMOs have a lot to do, but then they have the opportunity as well. And while there are hurdles in being recognized as a strategic leader, there are opportunities as well to establish that, when you do things right. But when you have to do all of that, and you're no more just demand generation or just a storyteller, the whole marketing function has to undergo a change. The kind of activities that we were probably not doing before, we'll have to do. There are tools and technologies that are available. So that takes us, and that's a good segue to our next section in terms of B2B marketing operating model and how that has to change in order to continue to drive growth. So in that context, I wanted to come to you, Saugata, with a question. How are you redesigning your marketing operating model to make that a relationship first kind of a model rather than a transactional model?
So I think I believe that the first point is to define the end game, right? What are we looking to build the model for? What problem are we solving, right? Once the end game has been decided, which it has been in our case to a large extent, the next thing is to reorganize or re-architect the team structures, right? And that requires a lot of reskilling and upskilling in terms of what the teams have to offer, right? And the third thing is then working on the mindsets of the individuals, right? And that leads to a very important point, which is about, what's the kind of talent that you're hiring or that you've hired in the days that have gone by, right? So long story short, like I said earlier, it's about understanding which is the most pertinent problem that the organization is trying to solve for. Revisit the entire marketing structure. See, I will not get into, the summarizing, saying that today's marketing is human, AI, tech, within a human oversight and all of that. So I think all of us in the room know that. The point is, how do we make that happen? Right? So it's about being having your ears close to the ground, understanding the problems that the organization is trying to solve for, and clearly define, and if possible, have an agreement with the leadership team as to what is the role that they believe marketing can play in solving that problem. Set up the team accordingly, and then go after it. And while you are at it, measure it on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, and so on. But keep it simple. There's too much of over-engineering that's already happening in the business. I think we need to keep it simple and just go after it.
Kalyan, would you like to add to it in terms of operating model? How should marketing operate?
At the chance of, this thing of agreeing with him a little too much, I love that simplicity is important. And I have what I call, planting a seed, because if you plant a seed in somebody's stomach, it grows into a tree and changes the system. So don't work on the outside as much. I would actually advise CMOs to say, plan your entire thing through customer journey and create customer theater. If you put the board, marketing to your own board and CEO is very important, that most marketers don't know how to do. Creating an insight theater, exposing them to customer insights, customer films, customer bites, and planning a customer journey and mapping every system, every department to that is a beautiful way to marry to outcome, like he said, and simplify it, because at the end of the day, B2 marketing is all about personal selling. It's B2B even now. And putting customer journey, customer insights, and holding the entire bloody system accountable to that is a genius that a CMO can do, because customer insights are in your division.
Excellent. And though it took us about 20 minutes, but we are finally at customer, right? That's all, marketers kind of focus upon. And so that brings me to a question, right? Though the marketing operating model has to change or adopt some new technologies, but even with that, the research, recently conducted research suggests that the customer centricity is important and it's at the heart of marketing, but almost about 58% of the organizations even today miss on understanding customers' needs and priorities, despite all of that large marketing organization, all of the AI and everything available. So in that context, I wanted to ask this question: how can CMOs ensure that their marketing strategies move beyond just transaction or transactional interactions and create a long-lasting, long-term customer value or lifetime value kind of a relationship with customers? I would love to come to you, Adishri, if that's good.
Thank you, Mukesh, for that question. And I think you brought up such an important point about customer lifetime value. I think today, especially in the tech space, a lot of us in the room probably are in the SaaS space. I think we live and die by renewals and churn. So I think that becomes, so the role of marketing does not end when you actually convert the first deal. It starts. So it is important for us to grow that relationship, engage with that customer throughout their life cycle over a period of time to create that customer lifetime value. Now, let me first take a step back before we speak a little bit more about customer lifetime value and engagement. I think first it starts off, you talked about customers not feeling heard. I think it first starts off with actually understanding your customer's pain points, understanding, deep listening, understand what is it that they're interested in, what are the strategic goals, what is it that they're looking for. So, it could be, as we're talking about intent signals, it could, we also listen to customers a lot through our customer advisory boards. So those also become very important, and that actually goes into your overall product strategy, how you innovate, how you reach out to them, your overall GTM and so on. And then once they actually become customers, what is really important is right from the time of purchase to, helping them adopt, to scale, to grow. All of that becomes an important partnership between marketing, sales, and even customer success. So that is very important in that overall scheme of things for us to realize the customer lifetime value. And once you're actually engaging with that customer throughout their life cycle, through thought leadership, through ABM, through, various forums, this is an entire topic in itself that I can really speak about. But over a period of time, what you're able to do is build trust, build customer relationships, as we were talking about human-to-human marketing. So that becomes at the center of what we do, because at the end of it, even maybe B2B, but there is a human at the back, at the end of it, and there is that connect and that relationship and trust that we need to build. And once you do that over a period of time, what you're able to really do is make the customer your advocate. And when a satisfied customer speaks on your behalf, when you were able to build that trust, that is marketing gold, because there is nothing more powerful than customers speaking on your behalf, speaking for your brand. No other campaign can do that. So I think that should be kind of the end goal of making sure that you're making the customer successful, work with them, and then over a period of time, you will realize that customer lifetime.
Great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that answer. And I would like you to add to that, Harish. At Pluxee, you also have a variety of industries as your customers, and they needed to create a better employee experience, not just customer experience, right? So how do you see at Pluxee the long-time customer lifetime value?
So I think it's pretty much what Adishri you said, but I'll just probably put it in an interesting way. Probably, Kalyan, it'll interest you in what I'd like to believe as the Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh model, right? So when you're creating the account, then there is the first part of the intelligence that comes in. How can you help create the ICP, right? What are the emotional and functional levers? And I think marketing is best placed to discover something like that. When you get a lead, how much can you enrich it with data points? Because marketing also has access to all data points. So when it goes to my sales team, is it just a lead, or does it have more enriching information, which then helps my salesperson convert the lead, or at least have more intelligent conversations? And that in turn, then shortens the life cycle, as you said, selling more effectively. Can you be a thought leader? Because most people who are on the buying side don't just want transactional relationship. They want a consulting relationship. They want someone who will be their friend, who will walk with them, who will tell them what's happening with peers, peer comparisons. So all of that is in the Brahma phase for me. The Vishnu phase or the maintenance phase is about upsell and cross sell, right? So how can you intelligently dissect because you are again sitting, for me, marketing sits in a place which is called the commercial engine. So essentially you see the product side, but you also see the client side of things. So you know, okay, how do I intelligently segment my clients so that I can position products in the right place, make them buy more toothpaste coming out of the tube, or more toothpaste, right? So, or a more expensive variety of toothpaste, whitening toothpaste, if you're just using a plain vanilla toothpaste. That's that phase. And then the Mahesh phase, which none of us want to see because, that will then affect our KPIs and PLIs. But if it's coming to it, retention, then how can you help predict, again, things like in B2B specifically, a churn prediction model. No one else can own it except marketing, is the way where we sit. That's still to predict and to give intelligent signals to your organization. But if it comes to it, then what kind of retention offers can you quickly design? How can you pivot quickly from what the feedback you've heard to go and make that right intervention, so we don't have to see Mahesh or Kalki, and we can end it at that stage.
Of course, of course.
So, three things I want to add to this is beautifully is one more thing I wanted to say is how to build trust with the board, but also there is a D2C which is affecting B2B also. There is a direct to decision maker, D2DM, which is happening, which is an advantage to marketing. In that, there is a double-edged sword. As a strategist, I always look at throw one stone and multiplier effect. So if you do leadership branding, because decision makers' trust depends on your own company's leadership branding. Another way for marketing is to tell stories about your leadership and they'll listen to you. Sorry for this, but marketing is about meaningful manipulation. You manipulate your own elders, right? Second thing, what he said, Harish, beautifully is products are evolving. For example, if you had a UX, like imagine, hold your palm like this. So there's a tablet. You gamify the experience because of AI and customization of demand. What's happening is the buyer wants to customize stuff and your sales is not able to package it on the spot. But marketing with AI intervention on a phablet can almost say, pick 1, 7, 15, 20 and give it to me, tablet back, I press a button and it customizes to create an offer for them. That's the kind of stuff, because if you impact what I'm calling, what Forrester study also says is trust, and also the final mile battle between sales and marketing in B2B. If you can actually, कभी-कभी जीतने को हारना पड़ता है, या झुकना पड़ता है. So if marketing can actually provide sales to win in the final mile far more distinctly, you will have your biggest rival in B2B as your friend. That's the things I wanted to add, sorry.
Of course.
Firstly, you called out Forrester in a DNB meeting. You have guts, man. That's fine. The second thing, I'll just take a step back. I think all the points made are very valid, very relevant. I'll just take a step back and say, and since we started off the conversation about building relationships with the board and the CEO and so on, the CMO needs to embed himself or herself at the stage in the process when a product market fit is being defined. The moment that embedding happens, he or she is actually a party to the entire decision-making process, and all the things that we said, which are post-launch, which is about, from an acquisition to a whole customer lifecycle management and amplification journey. The moment the product market fit is defined and the CMO has a word in that, has a say in that, believe me, the journey becomes far more easy, far more scientific, and the currency in the conversation in the boardroom gets far more accepted. It's not about trying to prove a point, but it's about trying to enhance and emphasize upon what has already been agreed on. That is something which I have seen play it out very well, and that's a suggestion to everybody in the room. The more we can do that, the better placed we are in the process, in the journey.
Wonderful. I think that leads me to the last and final section of this discussion, and very beautifully put. And I don't know if this will match with Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, but there is data, there is technology, and then there is automation, right? And all of these three are very key enablers of marketing today to meet and understand the needs of customers. But because there are a plethora of tools and technology that are available today, if you look at the MarTech wall, you'll see hundreds of companies in India. I once tried to size that market, and just within 2,000 odd crores, there were some 350 odd companies. So unstructured market, and everybody has some little bit that can do things differently with some niche. So with that kind of variety in terms of tools, technology, data, and platform available, what are the key capabilities the marketeers need to prioritize, or how should they prioritize those capabilities within their marketing organization to do their job effectively? That's the question I have, and maybe I could come to you, Harish, to begin with.
Sure. I think it's a good question. I think it's one of the biggest challenges we have today. The biggest power we have today is there are a lot of tools. The biggest challenge we have is there are a lot of tools. How do you choose the right tool? How do you have that sort of fitment? Do you have that intelligence? And that's where I think marketing plays the right role to help define the problem in the most optimal way, and not go always by the most or the best known name in that industry. You have to look for what works for you. For instance, in my company, when I was looking recently for a custom consumer automation tool, I am more interested in attribution. Automation and workflows are an incidental for me, but I am looking for a tool which can help me attribute. So it might not be probably the best name tools there, but the partner who will engage with you best. So I think it's about defining the right tools, and as you said, how can those tools help you get home quicker, unless you work for a CEO who doesn't want you to go home and stare at your wife. Other than that, for the others, we need to get back home. In terms of data, again, how do you enrich the data in the right way? There is too much data out there, but as you, Kalyan, I think, kind of got at, is there intelligence? Is it just data that's been thrown at your face, or are you putting it in the right way? How can you triangulate data? So you have your CRM, you have your lead gen engine, and you have all the experience data that you're getting, because you are measuring. I'm sure all of us in this room, we are doing NPS, we are doing surveys, we are doing in the moment surveys. We are trying to, and our biggest challenge, which has been an animal which has been out there, elusive animal, 360-degree insights. How do we get to that quickly? And I think the marketing person is best suited to come together to optimize, to be in the room as the go-to person, so that everyone can, gyrate around him to say, okay, guys, we need to make some choices. We cannot get this data real time. We have to work with T+1. But if it's T+1, this is the data I propose you have, and this is why you don't have. And as Saugata, you keep saying time and again, build the right business case for that. Everyone in the room feels involved, but they can also see value. So value attribution, business case making, again, I think is a key attribute that only marketing can carry.
Great, thank you, Harish. And Aditi, would you like to add to that? The same, Adishri, the same question. How to prioritize capabilities?
Yes, absolutely. So I think you rightly pointed out, I think as marketers today, we're drowning practically in so many tools, and there's so much out there. So it's important to firstly, I think, starts off with first understanding what are your objectives. What is it that you want to get done? What is it that the business needs? What is it the customer needs? Once you actually define the objectives, then picking the tools becomes a byproduct of it. So if you're able to say, like if your objective is, I want to drive awareness, so I want to probably get customers to, accelerate their, movement down the marketing funnel. That could be one objective. Then maybe a good marketing automation tool will serve your purpose. If I want to probably say, as you said, get the right attribution, there'll be another set of tools that will help us understand the data better, understand how marketing is contributing to the overall business, and so on and so forth. Or, it could be social listening. There are various other, so I think the objective is to first define the rule. Or it could even be to understand, to probably engage with high value customers. So if you're looking to engage with the high value customers, I think, it is, we obviously can't emphasize enough the importance of account-based marketing. Now that is, and as we all know, there are multiple people as part of that conversation today. The buyers group is not one person. It's not a lead conversation we're having anymore. There are at least 7 to 8 people who are part of the buying group, all of which have their all individual journeys. And all of this need to have their personalized conversations. which marketing orchestrates through a multiplicity of, probably physical events, digital, customized content, and so on and so forth. So I think first understanding the objectives, and then you also then kind of need to understand, is this adaptable? Because customer needs, your business requirements also keep changing. So are we able to adapt those tools quickly? So those adaptability, simplicity, objectives, all of these things make the decision of picking the right tools pretty easy. So I would say let's put that lens and simplify, and we should and work towards those answers.
Great, thanks. And that this brings me to the last question that I have for the panel, and probably after that, if audience has questions, we could get to that. But the question is, many organizations, as we have talked about many things that need to be done, and we need to prioritize according to the objectives. But at the end of the day, there is one difference that remains. Many organizations struggle to have a connect between how the operating model of the marketing and how marketing is measured, could be engagement rates or something like that, vis-a-vis the organization's goal is revenue growth, margin growth, margin improvement, and long-term customer value. So how do marketeers create a measurement framework that completes and fills the gap and connects the marketing objectives, how marketing is seized with the company's revenue objectives and growth? So that's my question, and I would love to come to you, Kalyan, to begin with.
I have a slightly different perspective on this. I agree with her also. I think marketing should split goals in short, mid, and long term, and then put KPIs and measurement according to that. Because marketing sometimes, as predictive of the future, is seen as too long term again. If you do the right thing about market changes and shifts, what is the dhanda for me now is what the sales and the board is asking. So I think instead of going like that, splitting into short, mid-term, and long-term, and also another one, what I would call competitive game planning. Making everybody participate in an exercise where they pose as your biggest competitor or threat and saying, how will you kill my brand? Involving them in like that will set you large kind of KPIs, because setting KPIs, all of them are experts at. In fact, marketing has to set KPIs. That's the only thing we have, because that's the only thing measurable, attribution. But it's not about how you set the KPIs, how you get it done. How you plan for the KPIs becomes very important, because if you can manage the system, for example, I think all three of them should be a moderator in their own organization. In fact, the role of marketing is not to fight, is not to lead, is to facilitate. That mindset, co-KPI setting, co-short-term, mid-term, long-term, creating a competitive game plan exercise is going to do the market shifts. So I'm not so messed up about KPI setting and measurement, because there are many indices. Again, there are too many of them.
Yeah, I think the question is, one, you have a team, right? You have to manage whole marketing function as a CMO, and you have to have their KPIs. And somebody much junior, you would try to see them on engagement rates or campaign performance or something like that. A big part of the CMO's job will also be somehow to tie these things to the organization's goals, revenue goals, right? If you tie that well, then everything flows, and that recognition and attribution also comes.
That's where I'm coming from. In the post-AI, KPIs are going to come by themselves. You can ask AI to set KPI per initiative, internal, external. So they say tying it up is what the job is, not identifying the KPIs.
Yeah.
If your outcome-based KPIs are naturally identified, how do you tie it up? Marketing's job is even to sell, buy into the KPIs within the organization on short-term, mid-term, long-term. Because so many times I've gone and seen marketers say, kal ko there's going to be a shift, tectonic shift in the market, a product or a service is going to, nobody listens. So
Great.
my thing is KPIs are very easy to identify. It's how to sell, how to tie up, using your words, the KPIs into the internal culture and buy-in is the big thing. Sorry.
You want to add to that, Harish?
Yeah, I'll probably take a jab at that. I think what you're trying to get at is orient the organization in a way that you're not gunning at lead indicators but at lag indicators, which are oriented at business. So I think that's more a culture that you need to drive internally. As you said rightly, then everyone might not be able to deliver everything to that aspect. So you enrich it in some way. You balance out the lead indicators with the lag indicators. So you have some lead KPIs, you have some lag KPIs, and I think Saugata also touched upon something very interesting initially. How do you define the organization or roles in a way that everyone has something to offer, because their roles are built in that way. So even a brand person can have something which is business oriented. Now, in fact, in the age of AI, we all have a brilliant opportunity this financial year, as I see it, because if you can adapt to AI tools, then there is a cost saving. So strategy is not always about revenue generation; it's also about cost efficiency. So this year there is a KPI that can be there, which is to say, okay, how can I per creative or per output, how can I reduce my costs? So that's one way of looking at KPIs, because then your SG&A goes down and you have more profitability. So I think it's about that orientation and balancing it out, and a little bit of organizational rejig, and you will have something at least for everyone, which is not, again, on leads, for instance, not the number of MQLs you generate, but how many contracts you have and lifetime value or annual value or ROI from that. So that will again speak to the board, because they will be happy to invest more money because it's finally converting to contracts, and kind of closes it out.
Right. So, Saugata, is it possible to put all of this that is being said in a framework, and that framework, if it can tie the operational KPIs to the business outcomes, then it becomes easier for you to have a dialogue with the CEO or the board as well, right? So how can one create such framework?
The short answer to your question is yes, it's definitely possible. The answer to how, right, is very subjective and very case to case. It depends on various things in terms of organizational priorities, the thought process of the person you're addressing, thought process of the audience, and so on. One thing that has worked for me, and I will leave that with the audience to also think about, is to be able to shift the conversation from ROI, because that gets muddled. Investment flows in from various quarters, and you increase the number of stakeholders because of the moment you talk about ROI. Move the conversation from ROI to ROAS, return on advertising spends. Right? The moment you do that, your ability to attribute, whether it's a lead indicator or a lag indicator, your ability to attribute that to the targeted end outcome exponentially grows. The attribution models and everything, of course, they're, like I said, they're very subjective, case-to-case basis. They need to be co-defined and co-created. But think about it. The moment you move the conversation from ROI to ROAS, your ability to make it more tangible, show it as a contribution to the end outcome goes up.
Sure.
Just an exception, we are talking a very important MNC B2B model. When you think of legacy entrepreneurial models, and India, Asia, Africa, the big guns are going to be the B2B legacy firms who have a lot. There, the model is slightly different. The ROAS is there, but there might be B2B models where there's no ROAS. There's no advertising communication spend itself. So I would actually agree with him and build that term as ROTAS, return on trade and whatever spends or marketing, because conceptually he's right. But another thing about B2B is intergenerational transfer. Because there the CMO's role gets even more complicated. Which generation does he? Because we've become a semi-expert at that. Honestly speaking, it's for a behavior change person, working on a family-owned transition business is actually far more complex and hence interesting. So just wanted to say that we have been talking about the MNC B2B model. There's a massive 10 times over family-owned, legacy, privately owned B2B model firms also. Just making the point.
Okay, great. Yeah, of course, we need to have a balanced approach, and whatever applies, but definitely need to put new operating models, definitely need to prioritize what kind of tools and technologies, and not get lost in the kind of plethora of things that are available, and of course tying it up so that the business value of marketing gets established and it gets due recognition, right? So I'm really very, very thankful to all of your inputs. Really appreciate that.